All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Won't keep you long because I do know it's Friday and we have lots and lots to do and a lot to look forward to for this weekend and getting set up for next week. So, what we're going to cover today on Programming Eileen. Now, if you've been to convention and you attended day two, specifically when Spa Performance did our entire presentation on not only staffing but marketing and programming Eileen, which is obviously closing her as a member. We also talked about retention for Eileen. This is actually one of the presentations from convention in case you missed it, or just in case you want to take it over again, where we have a little bit more detail to go through this. Now, typically when we're discussing a sales process for our demographic, our Eileens, we go through specific sales process presentations and we go through step-by-step cycle of the guest greeting to the personal spa profile to reviewing the personal spa profile to walking them around, touring them, and the program presentation, making them a member. And you guys probably at this point, already have seen that and gotten that training. So to specify what we're covering in this Programming Eileen training is not the usual. We're not going to cover the step-by-steps as we did do that a couple of weeks ago, and we'll probably do that again, I'm sure. But what we wanted to talk about today as far as going through the sales process with Eileen is concerned is more so if you've taken these webinars before, I know that we typically like to focus a lot on the how and the why. Things are done the way that they are, how to do it, not just what to do. That's more so what this training is going to be about. And it's not going to be very long at all because it's just going into specific step-by-step details of each one of those areas of the circle and the cycle of the sales process. So to start it off with, we're going to talk a little bit about the staff skill set and the characteristics of which you might have heard a million times before, of the eagle. The eagles that are in your stores. We are actually having franchisee school going on right now, and we do have one of our top spas in here. And it's been so beneficial just because they've been able to enlighten so many of our newer franchisees, of our newer spa directors, or even existing spa directors and franchisees in there as well, just to sort of be a refresher, just tips, ideas. It's been so beneficial, and they're such eagles themselves. Obviously, being in a top spa, we want to talk about the focus that goes and ties into the staff skill set and the characteristics of what to look for, what to be sure that you need to identify with as the leaders of your spas to know if somebody is trainable or not trainable. Obviously, are they skilled in understanding their role on how to scan Eileen's personality, molding themselves to showcase value to that type of Eileen? Basic read skills here. What does this mean? This is when recruiting, when hiring, when training any new employee, or maybe you're doing a complete revamp of your existing staff. When doing anything like that at all, you must be able to, as the leader, whether it's franchisee or spa director or ASD, if you're in charge of the staff, if you're the one that's in charge of training them, first thing you need to do is do an analysis on this specific consultant at hand and find out, are you able to just read a person? That's key in understanding the consumer to know exactly how to not only word everything that you're presenting to this specific customer, but it's important to know how to communicate to this customer, not just with words, more so body language, or assuming the sale versus maybe I want to do the witch pitch, or what is this person exactly looking for in particular? What were their questions? Do they know how to read and pick up on body language, mannerisms of the customer itself? Because if you happen to have a staff, or maybe just one staff member that's really great at this, they will help in aiding you making everybody else great at this by providing different tips. Sometimes we know as leaders already that we can say over and over and over and over every single day, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But sometimes when somebody else comes along and says, oh, you should do this, it could be the same thing that you're saying. You could say it the same exact way, but sometimes hearing it from another person, is enlightening, and it doesn't seem so much like they're being told what to do. It's more so that they're seeing somebody else telling them that it clearly works for them. I want to do that if it's working for you. And you're like sitting there with your hands in the air going, I've been saying that the whole time, right? Well, if that's happened to you, then that's a situation of, if you happen to have just this one person, even if it's one, if you're lucky enough to have all people that are good with reading the customer, the Eileens, let them aid you and assist you in providing any type of insight, feedback, training on that specifically themselves. The 4 types of Eileens and different program pitches to showcase the value. We've talked about this in previous sales process trainings. Usually it's 3 types of consumers, right? But we're going to go through that. The Eileen, the walk-in with no offer. The Eileen walk-in with an offer. So the walk-in with no offer, that is typically somebody stopping by on their way home, on their lunch break. I just want to find out prices. They came in there just to get a simple bit of information, and that's it. Not expecting to go through such a great customer experience of the personal spa profile, a walking tour, trying out the service, and then getting the program pitches, right? So that's just the walk-in that's unannounced, that has nothing in their hand. Wanting to know about it. Eileen walk in with an offer. Maybe this is somebody coming in to find out some information because they have a guest pass that someone just gave to them. They just left the gym, or they were at the office at work and some member walked in trying to get ambassador rewards by referring people, and they had a card from the ambassador program. Whatever the case might be, $50 gift certificate, it was on their car, whatever the case is. That's typically another type of consumer. The red appointment Eileen. This is obviously from your marketing efforts. They always have the offer because that's how you got them in the door in the first place. And then, of course, your existing Eileens in your spa that are not specific EFT members yet. This is fairly new. In the past, you've gotten training on the fact that there are 3 different types of Planet Beach customers. Well, this is a newly added consumer, which is your existing paid in fulls. Maybe they buy sessions, maybe they come in on Groupons and living socials, and they're the habitual temporary committers, right? That's actually our 4th Eileen that you are going to need to instill your staff members to know the read skills to tie into this, like we just discussed. Am I going to pitch to the Eileen that walked in randomly with no offer the same way as I would in being prepared with a red appointment? Those are 2 separate discussions, 2 separate approaches, and it's important that when you are training, hiring, recruiting, interviewing, that they understand and you're explaining their roles and defining what a spa consultant's role is. They need to understand that they have to have a skill set in these areas. Obviously, you see that this is in quotes because I'm taking this from the great JP who used to be here. You can't fix stupid, not even with duct tape. Now, of course, that is a phrase that has been coined from the great JP for over years. That's typically stating if they're not trainable, they're not trainable. And all you're doing by holding on to them would be costing yourself. You're adding a cost to yourself that is unnecessary. And you don't want to pay somebody to work in your spa for you if they're not at least covering their cost. The purpose of having them in there, as you probably already know, is to bring a profit to you, right? So if they're just even barely covering their costs, then clearly they're not an asset to you. If you see and you notice that you've had to maybe specifically repeat, and this is just some advice for you if you're a franchisee or spa director, if you find that you've had to repeat yourself time and time again on a same situation, the same type of training, then maybe it is either A, your leadership and management style. Maybe you need to clarify, hey, what works for you? How do you train? What is it? Help in providing me some information as to what's going to be the most effective way to get you fully trained in all of these areas. This way, I know how to better manage you and know whenever that you're confident in this specific training. So that would be the first thing, obviously. And then after you've noticed time and time again that you've tried all of this, you've worked with a specific individual and it's still a weakness and they're still falling short, or if going back into the first bullet, understanding how to read each individual type of Eileen that's walking into your door. If they can't do the basic read skills, they're not trainable. Therefore, that's what the quote, "You can't fix stupid," is on here for. Don't waste your time. That's exactly how. And you might have noticed in the past, if you've been around a while, if you're newer, then maybe this doesn't apply to you so much yet, but stop the problem before it happens for sure. Don't burn yourself out in spending hours and hours and investing your time and your money into those who cannot be trained. Eileen always wants to buy something, so sell them something even if it's time. Each type sees value as something different that you can offer them. It's just a matter of if you will offer it to them. What does that mean? Well, when somebody comes in there and they're asking maybe specific, the first two of the four types that you see listed here on your screen, the walk-in with or without the offer, they're 50% sold when they're already in your door. So obviously they are shopping for something. They're looking for something specific to beauty and wellness. They heard that you offered it, so they're coming in to see what exactly that is. So sell them something. And what we mean by even if it's time is many times we tend to focus so much on getting a new member that we drill in our training processes with our spa consultants and our spa directors to go for the gold, literally. Go for the gold, go for the gold, go for the titanium, right? We need to get that EFT, and it's so important, and it's so pushed down and drilled into the minds of our staff that we don't take the opportunities when we, let's say, fail at being able to or allocate a new member on an EFT program. We're finding across the board that many of our locations are simply allowing these Eileens to just walk out. Maybe we'll call them back in a few months from now when we're doing some prospecting on booking reds. It's a slower time. Let's pull old guest registers or prospect reports or whatever the case might be. We might call them back in those situations, but usually whenever Eileen walks out, they walk out and there is no sale made. For many of our same store sales, I would like to say the word obstacles that we seem to face daily, monthly, across the board. This is typically where the problem usually lies. Obviously, it originates and starts with the staff that are inside of these locations, inside of your location. However, we are not seeing the numbers or maybe seeing a positive in a same store sales increase per se for our store because we're forgetting the goal is that we are in business to make money. So if Eileen does not want to make a commitment, you couldn't overcome an objection or your staff member couldn't overcome an objection, whatever you do when you're training on the EFT programs and overcoming objections in general, make sure you wrap up every one of those trainings with still sell them something, STS. Hopefully you write that down because that's huge. If Eileen doesn't want to become an EFT member that specific day because the consultant at the time was not able to overcome the objection, it's okay to sell them a 1 month paid in full or a 3 month paid in full or a 6 month paid in full, maybe 10 sessions. That's actually the best case scenario. What's a fail? That's actually not a failure if they're not an EFT member. What a real failure would be to allow them to walk out without anything, because what we mean by even if it's time to sell them something, that's still time that they're going to be able to come back into your spa, use your services, and you have enough time to be able to see them more frequently to talk them either into getting their EFT program or get them to see value in it because of the money that they've dropped on that specific paid in full or bundle of sessions. It's always going to be much, much more than the $59 a month EFT program. So calculator method is key. Using the opportunity to be able to sell them something is obviously a contribution to your membership cash as well as products. So be sure that you're able to instill in them when you're training on the EFT program. Obviously, this is priority. We're trying to get our net EFT up. We need that draft to be big and cover our expenses. Yes. However, letting them walk out would be a kill to your membership cash, to your instant sales, right? And that right there is probably one of the main reasons if you're not experiencing a same-store sales increase. This could be one of the reasons why, and it's time to take a look at that. And lastly, the skill set and characteristics when we're talking about the staff that are inside of your spas right now, currently, along with all of the things that you see and we've discussed and listed here on the screen. Overcoming Eileen's objections by understanding her. When you face training your staff on this, or if you only are training a spa director and the spa director is training a staff on this, when facing those specific trainings and covering all of these things, we must make sure that you give them what they need to say, what the process is, the procedure is. That's very important. Having them understand that is key and critical to being able to close new members. However, please be sure to incorporate throughout your entire process. Now, remember what the end goal is. And saying those few words right there, it's going to help and it's going to assist you in being able to lead properly and manage them moving forward after these trainings, because you're able to get them to understand why it's important. So, suggestions on training a staff to do these things are A, provide them with a structure. Hopefully you write that down. Provide them with a structure. What I mean by that is train in steps. If you've been to franchisee school, you see how we train you guys, and that is we don't brain dump you and go all the way from the very beginning to when the marketing goes out to calling, or they call in and book a red appointment, to they come in and guest greeting and PSP and then the review and the tour. Don't do a long drawn out process. Break it up. So provide a structure broken down and use a tell, show, do training. Tell, show, do, if you are a first timer, is explain the specific step at hand by telling them. So that's the actual teaching and delegating and explaining the process. Then you're going to show them the process by maybe do a role play on them as if they were the Eileen walking in. It's a great way to be able to lead by example whenever you're doing show, not to mention showing them and giving them a visual of what you just explained to them being important. And then do. Doing is having them do it back to you. You are now the Eileen, you are now the customer, and they are at the time the consultant. That's goal is to get Eileen to be a new member. So with that being said, A, you want to be sure you provide that structure of a tell, show, do training. Do it in steps. Don't do it at once. A brain dump will cause confusion and will cause them to be the yes men, head nodders, because of what, at the end of the day, what happens? They don't want to look, seem like they're incompetent, they're incapable of doing their job at hand in front of their boss. They won't say that they don't understand it, especially in a group environment. So when training this and doing each step, give them the structure. B, incorporate why we do it that way. It's important for your staff to understand why we do it that way, because if I tell you this is how you need to sell this specific program at $59 a month, this is what's included, and this is your job duty. This is what's important. If you don't do this, there are repercussions. Well, I need to understand, in order for me to effectively convey the messages that are in my sales process to a customer, I need to understand why it's important, because this way, when you tell me, think about what the end goal is, I'm going to understand that. If you tell them to think about what the end goal is, what's the end goal? Making them a member and duplicating her and getting leads and getting sales and ongoing product sales. I'm not really going to understand that, and I'm not going to really relate to that very well, and I'm not going to be trainable very much if you don't tell me why it's important. Why? Why is the EFT important? Well, it contributes to our draft. Our draft is what pays our bills. Our bills, once they are paid, everything else that we receive, money in the bank, right? I can provide incentives, I can give bonuses and raises when it is called for, and so on and so forth. And understanding the why in selling them something. Now, just because somebody doesn't become an EFT member, although that is number one priority, here's why it's important to sell them something, whether it's a month or 10 sessions. Having them understand why is important because A, you're still going to get commissions on this depending on what exactly it is that you're selling that's a paid in full. You're not going to give commissions out on one session, but you will maybe on 10 or a 1 month or a 3 month. So keeping that in mind and explaining why it's important for them to do that. A, what's in it for them as the consultant, they're going to get the commission still at the end of the day. And B, you still have the opportunity to get an ongoing commission from them as well, continued after that one time of getting them a month. You stand to get another set of commissions on this person if you buy time. So having them understand and listen when you're doing the training. When they're getting an objection, what would they tell their friends? That's so huge. So if they're sold on this program themselves, which they should be at this point, and you guys probably already have that training by now, so I won't go into detail with that, they should be sold on this themselves. If they're talking to their friends and explaining, this is a great deal, word of mouth, right? Where'd you get this? You need to go and get that yourself. Those situations, if they're having that conversation with their friends and they get an objection from them, on a daily basis, they don't realize that they're already overcoming objections every single day. So having them understand to put themselves in the mindset of how they would be with their friends, keeping it professional, right? Just put yourself in a situation where you're trying to tell your friend, you'd be crazy not to get a good deal like this. Treat it the same way. And if you have a staff who has a skill set on these characteristics that we just named, they'll be able to understand that and incorporate that and go, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Because if somebody goes, I don't know if I can afford this, they won't be so inclined to just say, okay, and let them leave. It would be more so of, well, what is it that you can't afford? Because we want to work with you. You know, we definitely want you to take advantage of this. We don't want this to be the reason why you don't join us and become a member today. I know how much you want that and how badly you want to have this membership. You look great and you know that you do. So those are just a few staff skill set characteristics that I wanted to go through with you. Now, Eileen's identify with other Eileens, so ask questions and listen and converse. This is the part of the sales process that ties into the what? Listen twice as much as you speak. A, Eileens love talking about themselves. That is a trait that not just an Eileen has, actually. That's a trait every female has. Who doesn't love talking about themselves, especially whenever you get a compliment? I love those shoes. I love your hair. I love that shade of eyeshadow that you're wearing, that outfit, anything, finding something to compliment them. They just love to go into detail and tell you, a little bit more about where they were able to find that deal. Everybody wants to talk about being the person that finds the deal, right? So listen and ask few questions, only the questions that you need to know that's going to help you in building up your presentation, right? But let them talk. Let them talk, because the more that they're talking, look, the more that they're talking themselves into a commitment with you because you're able to gather that information. What does this mean? Do not sell or tie every response given into a potential sale on something too soon. That is critical, and that is also a skill set that is acquired by an eagle, not a turkey. If you have an opportunity to sell something to someone, don't push it too soon. And what we mean by that is the last thing that you want to do is have a negative Yelp review somewhere, somehow, that says, don't go into this location. All they do is want to sell you stuff. It's a trap. It's a catch. It's a gimmick. This is not what we want to paint ourselves out to be, which is why typically you sit in our trainings and you hear us all the time say, we don't want to be salespeople. We are consultants. Consultants basically are a kiosk. Consultants give questions for them to answer, aka your personal spa profile and more. Those are the questions that you give. The consumer then answers those questions, providing them with information to help set up that customer with what they need, right? So in hindsight, when you look at the big picture, we're almost a bunch of walking kiosks. You need to ask the questions to gather the information that we need to be able to present them with the most feasible, the most effective, the most convenient program that there is. So it's important that when they come in and they start talking to you about what their issues are, their problematic areas, when you're asking what their goals are, you're finding out their number one area of interest, letting them use the services first. Make sure that every time that they're coming in, that it's not a discussion about they should buy something. It shouldn't be that every single time. So be sure that you're training your eagles on that. Some quick tips on a sequence of important steps to follow when selling to Eileen. What's her name? And what can you compliment? So we're taking this in a different light, like we said when we started this training. We're not going through a sales process. We're tying these steps, these tips, these helpful advice pieces that have been allocated from all of our top spas to be put together. When you cover the specific part of the guest greeting, this is what you would tie into that, right? So what's her name? When you train your employees on the basic read skills that we discussed before, when you ask or do a handshake, hey, hi, my name is Danielle, what's yours? Firm handshake, listening for it, what can you compliment? Knowing that immediately follow up with a compliment, make that a process, drill, practice, drill, rehearse, follow up with a compliment, or vice versa. Compliment them before asking the name, but repeating the name back will help them in remembering that person's name, because we know that they're so focused on the guest greeting at hand that they might be just asking the questions to go through the motions, but they're not really paying attention. And guess what that means? 8 times out of 10, they don't close the deal because they weren't personable. They forgot what they'd asked. They'd asked again. The consumer picks up on this. That's not a good relationship building situation. The experience wasn't there to showcase value, and they don't become a member. So you see, the mean girl, quote unquote, that's a movie. Mean girl crime is a struggle that is real. So surprise her. Be pleasant for a change and presentable, always repeating the name back. And your initial icebreaker compliment is first priority to warm them up to like you, right? Which in turn, it's going to make them buy from you. Throughout the entire time that they're going to be spending with you, understand that this is, especially if it's a first time customer, that's going to be a little bit intimidating. And understanding that a female speaking to another Eileen could be intimidating, especially if they're leaving the gym. Maybe they don't feel like they look their very best, and you have consultants in here that are, top notch hair done, their face is done, they're wearing, their smocks, they look professional. It's going to be pretty intimidating, and they're going to expect there to be some type of, judgment maybe. So surprise this Eileen. Be pleasant for a change. And always repeat the name back. It makes it personable, it makes it one-on-one, and it almost makes them feel like they're having a friendly conversation versus sitting down through a sales process. Second thing that we're going to go over, is she an introvert or an extrovert? This is important for you when you're training on the relationship building part and aspect of the sales process. Tie this into the basic read skills as well. Understand what your approach should be. More personable maybe, or more compliments, more professional, so on and so forth. How to conduct your behaviors and psychology of good versus bad power words in your consult. What does this mean? To go into detail, would you approach the more established, more distinguished, mature lady with a conversation about how to nickel and dime your way into being able to solidify this specific program? Absolutely not. The college Eileen, however, maybe just graduated, maybe out on her own for the first time, or maybe she's got 2 kids, and obviously if you have that 2 children, 1 child alone, you're going to be strapped for cash at all times. You're spending so much money, right? So looking for a bargain type of approach would not go for somebody who comes in there looking to be pampered, wants the red carpet treatment, wants to see, show me what I'm going to be investing in, not what is the cheapest that I can pay to be a member here. So be sure that your staff, whenever you're analyzing them, you're assessing them to see if they have basic read skills to understand, not there's going to be a different approach, each and every time. When you cover this specific training during the guest greeting, although we always talk about the customer having that first impression on you, and you have to be very careful because you can never get that first impression back. Well, that goes for the consultant too. This is your first impression of this customer. So this is the time whenever you get that name, you're complimenting, you're asking questions. Do you live in the area? Or are you just passing by? Is this your first time? That is the consultant's opportunity to read that customer. So train them on doing so. Thirdly, what is her story? Now, after we get that guest greeting down and we talk about sitting them down with a personal spa profile, when they sit them down with a personal spa profile, they ask for the beverage. That's a pretty basic step, right, in our sales process. When we come back, however, and sit down with them, please make it a point and write this down. Don't move directly into the next step of personal spa profile. I know it is a step, and I know that is what we train on, but we give you the basic fundamentals of the sales process, which is important, right, because they need to know that. However, they need to make it their own with their own personality, right? Sticking to everything that is a script, of course, but if I sit down with you and I'm going to show you what it is that you need, I'm not too personal. What if I'm that personality type? What if I'm that Eileen that only buys things because I like people? Maybe I don't even care about using services, but I love the consultants at this specific spa. Build a relationship with me and I'll be a member for life. I'll be loyal to you for life, like a little puppy, right? And I'm going to refer people all the time and I'm going to want to help you out. I'll be the person that at the end of the month, you go to tell me about a retail product and I'll ask that specific consultant, well, if you get commission on it, I'll hook you up and I'll buy it for you. Um, Maybe they're that Eileen. So it's important to tie that in. When training and sitting back down, coming back, and they're done their personal spa profile, do not move immediately into the first area of interest question or anything like that without talking a little bit more. You might have brought a guard down whenever they came in, but they might still have some up. Maybe they are the introvert and using basic read skills, a consultant will be able to see that. Maybe say, hey, the age old line of you look so familiar. I feel like I've seen you before. Or do you know anybody that comes to our spa? Maybe they go to a gym that you work out at. Whatever the case might be, tie in some type of icebreaker question. Find out her story. We all have one, right? Everybody's got a story. What is hers? Seek out emotional situations in the small talk. This is going to be very crucial in use for your future presentations on the programs, on the packages, and the products to enable them to see the value you are showing them. Let's go into detail about this. Seek out the emotional situations in your small talk. Maybe you'll find out from finding out where they work or where they live, or if they have children or a husband, maybe they just got a promotion at work, something specific that ties into their personal and emotional situations. That's going to be very beneficial later on down the line. If you incorporate becoming a member later and an objection might come to fruition that is tied into something that's like, well, I did get, I'm very, very busy at work lately. Yeah, I know. You mentioned your promotion that you got at work, which, that's awesome. This is amazing. And that's so exciting. So, of course, you're going to be super busy. But I did notice here that you said you can dedicate 2 days a week here. And most of our members actually come in about 2 days a week and find that value in that as well. So I'm not sure if that plays any bearings on that, but most of our customers who are members who have felt that same way that you did, they found that this was actually something of benefit because they were able to provide their job duties more productively and dedicate themselves more productively and more efficiently at work. Whenever they de-stress and they come in at lunch and get a massage, they go back to work ready to go. They actually perform better, right? So if your staff isn't skilled in understanding how to answer those questions and do that, first of all, then you need to stop where we're at right now and revert back all the way to that first slide to staffing. Because you can't train on all these things and burn yourself out on somebody who's not getting it. Tie in how you can be a part of, improve, or assist in these emotional situations or stories to establish value in being a part of their daily lives as a necessity, as we've just discussed. 4, positivity loves company. Isn't that a breath of fresh air? Aren't we used to hearing misery loves company? Well, this is why it's important that when we instill all of the values, the core values, the beliefs, the USP, everything about what Planet Beach represents to our members and how we're so valued to our existing members that are loyal to us, we need to train our staff members on doing the same way and exuding this within their presentations. This ties all the way back into body language. And a lot of times we'll refer back to staffing in every training, obviously, because you can't do anything that you learn here without the proper people in place. But your staff could be the sweetest, nicest, most bubbly, most personable staff in our entire franchise community, right? You might have the best staff in the world. If they're conducting themselves in a positive aspect, that is great, and you want to continue to highlight on that and spotlight that and give them kudos where it is well deserved on that. However, if we're not teaching them the importance in their mannerisms and body language to remain professional throughout that we may not even realize could be the silent killer of your ratio problems if you do have some. What I mean by that is if I'm not having eye contact with a person the whole time, if I'm not squared off at the shoulders, facing them, if I am sitting on my foot or Indian style or slouched over or twirling my hair, right? These are all characteristics. These are all in day-to-day activity. We're talking so much to our spas and our staff saying, be personable, be personable. It's okay. Be bubbly, showcase your personality in a professional manner, but we need to be mindful of what we are looking like and what we are portraying ourselves to be, because guess what? We're going to get the more distinguished Eileen, maybe Eileen's mom, come in there who has the money to spend, wants to burn that hole in her pocket, but if she feels like she's talking to a child and doesn't feel like it's a professional atmosphere, like this person is not a certified and trained consultant, they're not going to feel like they're going to get much for their money. So it's important to incorporate all of these little things whenever you're doing your training, because we want to make sure that we rub off on our excitement to get in their services, right? And constantly dropping in the I can't wait to get you in the services throughout the entire time, that's huge, because that's a positive trait that will rub off on your customer. That's going to make them excited to try the services. And we know once they try the services, they're almost pretty much sold. Assumptive sales shows confidence, that she'll love everything that you have to offer, and suggestive mannerisms when addressing an objection aids in removing any potential anxiety of buying, tied in with life experiences, testimonials, saying things like most of our members found that ... What we mean by addressing the objection with removing the anxiety is, oh, no, we know what? We actually, many of our members who have felt the same way that you did, they found that whenever they became a member and got this specific program, that they found that it was actually beneficial to their schedule, because they were able to do this on their lunch break, right? They're able to come in and do this on their lunch break before big meetings, give them a sense of clarity. That way they can focus. And maybe they're not a working Eileen. Maybe they're a mom. Maybe they're a soccer mom. And they just need to get that experience of just removing themselves completely from the chaos and giving time for themselves to be able to continue, right? But using the mannerisms and the suggestive, assuming the sale, that's huge. Too many times we hear yes or no questions that are being asked, and it's time that we start paying attention to that as leaders, as spa directors and franchisees. That way we can catch that. Doing maybe a swear jar, right? I heard you at the very end, you gave her an out. You gave her an opportunity to leave. So what you want to do is say, you know what? This would be so crazy if you missed out on this opportunity. Look at you. I could see it in your face. You loved your massage. You loved your sessions. We want to see you coming back again and again. Let's just go ahead and get you started. You ready to get started? Maybe that's a good yes or no question, because then that'll allow you to be able to say, I'm reading this person and they're feeling a little bit closed off. They look like they still have questions. Maybe I will allow for a yes or no question at this time. That way I can overcome this objection and remove the fear of investing. Next, we're going to go into what is Eileen focusing on at that very specific time. Now, you'll know this based on the moment that she walks in. If it's a red appointment, if she's just a walk-in with no offer, if she has an offer, maybe she's looking to re-up that 1 month paid in full. She's habitually purchasing. But find that out, and this ties directly into when we did the comparison of the more distinguished Eileen versus the I'm still in college, maybe I'm going in for my master's, maybe I'm fresh out of college, and I'm on like that ramen noodle diet where I am barely getting by because I got a ton of student loans to pay off. Finding that out's key, and telling your staff to find that out too. And when you're training, they'll be able to know this off the bat. They'll walk in and say, hey, what are your prices? This is typically somebody who is window shopping, and that intends before you have your chance to sparkle and make them fall in love with you with the experience. Their idea is, I'm window shopping and I'm going to go to the cheapest place. Usually you can tell right then and there, but be sure that when you're training and you're covering the specific part of the sales process, that you do the program presentation. What are they more focused on, and is the objection a financial objection? That's going to help you with determining the direction of the consultation. If this person doesn't really put focus on the price point and wants to know, the only price point focus is, okay, well then what am I getting for this money? that I'll be spending, obviously I'm going to know and I'm going to understand as a skilled and highly, highly talented eagle. If I work in your store, I'll know at that point clearly this person just wants a deal. I'm going to do what I need to negotiate them into becoming a member. I won't maybe sit there and highlight on all of the features and benefits that go along with how we pamper, and I won't be more so of the do you need a refill every 5 minutes, or being more focused on giving that experience if it's one or the other. So that's basically what this specific step is going into when you're doing that training and you're at the point of the guest greeting and you're scanning this Eileen, and this is your first impression on her. Will you need to spend more time focusing on your services and offerings and pampering, right? Eileen's mother maybe, who's got the money to spend, who will buy if it's a value being shown, or are you going to show them the dollar value and savings with convenience and permanent solutions to permanent problems? Example, fresh on her own, tight budget, young professional, or more established, been on their own for a while, can afford to treat herself, young professional. There's so many different Eileens out there, right? I think we have actually established that at convention. Next step, help her come up with the solutions and alternatives, then give her time. What do we mean by this? Well, most objections are given that you get are due to a lack of value showcased to her. Believe it or not, financial objection can be a lack of value objection. Think about it is a lack of value objection. Let me talk to my husband can even be a lack of value because maybe she's just putting it off on her husband, but he really doesn't care. Maybe that's just a line because she doesn't want to be rude and she doesn't want to tell you no. But all in all, most of the time, unless it is a specific formerly scorned person from another business with the automatic billing, and they don't want to be a member and they're adamant on just that, but they love everything else, usually every objection is a lack of value objection. But most of them are real objections that have nothing to do with your real objections have nothing to do with your lack of showing her the value. Eileen just genuinely believes that she can say yes at this time. Question. Create the decision to be completely risk-free or satisfaction guaranteed to assure that her potential unexpected situations that may prevent her from being a member later on are completely fixable. That is a huge concern for people. 9 times out of 10, what's happening is your staff, they're lacking that skill set and ability to be able to have just a basic remove an entire process at this point. You've gone through the entire steps, right? You've done the guest greeting, they filled out the PSP, you've reviewed the PSP, you've walked them around, you've let them try a service, you present them with the program that's right for them. Then at this time, they hit you with objections. At what point? This is the point where you train the staff in saying, okay, in the back of your mind, if you get an objection, listen. What is that objection? And then have them say at that moment as a consultant, if you don't in the back of your mind say, this is a direct trigger for me to understand I dropped the ball in showcasing the value in this, right? So if they say, I don't know, let me think about it. We need to keep asking questions to find out the real objection. Think about it really isn't one. We need to dig down deep. Is it commitment? Is it financial? Is it maybe right now it's not priority? Find out what exactly it is because that's going to help you, right? It's going to help you in creating urgency. Maybe they just need a fire lit underneath them, or they need to see this is a one-time only opportunity. Be sure that you're tying in risk-free, satisfaction guaranteed verbiage like that because that removes anxiety, right? Let's just cross that bridge when we get there. We want to get you set up on this. We don't want you to lose this opportunity. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a couple of days to do a risk-free trial on it. Let's just reserve this now for you so you don't miss out on some great savings later on down the line. I know you're going to come in again. You're going to love it. And it's going to be too late at that point. I'll never be able to get you at this price point again, right? And most of the time when we are losing members, do you realize that in the back of your mind, what you're not thinking about is maybe these people, when they became members, were a much easier sale. Maybe these specific people that are canceling on me have no idea that they can freeze their membership, that they could transfer their membership, obviously depending on what the price point is, because we don't want to transfer old memberships. But Keeping that in mind, a lot of times lack of knowledge is why we are not closing. And so it's important for your spa consultants to be over informative of all of these features and benefits that Eileen needs to hear. Listen, if you move, no big deal. We can actually get you set up to where you can give this away to somebody. Not mentioning how to cancel is huge during your process because you don't want to give them the objection off the bat. You don't want to give them the way out off the bat. Chances are they're going to ask you about it anyway, so don't make it a point to discuss it. It's your job to consult members, right? So it's you who provides consultations with insight and solutions to current member regimes and service usage, right? So then if Eileen says she can't afford something or that she needs to talk to her partner or I'll think about it, backing down is not an option. She must need to see that you are willing to offer a solution for her because she's thinking there isn't one on the table. You're consulting her in services, products, regime, everything, all of the above, but what she doesn't expect you to consult her in is a solution to her problem. Because all in all, who wouldn't want to be able to come in and get beauty and wellness treatments? Everybody does. There's always a problem on the table whenever it comes to an objection that you're receiving. So tell your consultants when you're training them and explaining them the why and the how throughout this entire process. They already know the what. When you're doing this training over again, tell them be a consultant for them, not just the regime. Shock her. She's not expecting that. And by saying things like, I definitely want to help you out here. I have a solution for you. Although we do this, we don't use third-party billing vendors, right? We do everything in-house. We have plenty of members that at times they're short on their, last check of the month. They'll give us a call and say, hold off on charging my card if you don't mind until about next Friday. We make notes for ourselves all the time. We work with everybody all the time. It's not set in stone that this is how it goes and this is the only way that we run things. The next step, avoid losing her before she's even a member and begin building your ammunition on duplicating her from the start. What do we mean by that? Is she the single professional with no kids and a massive personal network because maybe she's a socialite? Maybe she's got a lot of professional contacts. Maybe she's just got a huge network in general, right? Or is she the soccer mom looking for peace and quiet before picking up those kids and having to make dinner, doing laundry, cleaning house, with a personal network of maybe other moms in a PTA group, right? Maybe they have a very small network, but they do have a network of personal contacts in general. Different Eileens have different hot buttons to lead to that yes. And show her that she never has to pay for that program if she doesn't really want to. What do we mean by that? Ambassador program. Referring people will get you this opportunity to be able to come in here and have run-of-the-mill like I promised you. So if this Eileen doesn't, if it's a financial objection, does your staff understand? Are they skilled in knowing how to turn around and say, well, you know what? We can actually still be able to reserve this for you if you have if you have your ACH information with you right now, tell you what I'll do. I can reserve this for you, and whenever you get paid next, we can handle your startup fee at that time. But I definitely don't want you to miss out on the savings. This is a valued program. This is valued at $129 a month. At $59, this is insane. We'll never be able to get it this low again. I just know it. And if I can guarantee you, I can reserve this price and keep you at this price for up to 24 months should you use it that long, we will definitely be able to revisit that price point and cut that down for you even more so with a loyalty program. So let's not miss out on this just because you just dropped $300 at the grocery store, right? That right there, that is not a script, that is not a process or a procedure, that is a skill set that you have to be able to assess to see if your staff has that or not. And if they do not, train them on that. If they cannot be trained, replace them, right? So that pretty much sums up what we wanted to cover today for this specific training on programming Eileen. I do thank you for taking the time out today to go through these steps with me. I'm going to go back to the screen in case you need to write any of this down that we covered earlier, knowing the 4 types. And all of this could be marketed in different quadrants of our structure. So to wrap up this training, I do want to leave you with a little bit of an exercise. When you are prospecting for this upcoming week of this upcoming week actually is going to be a back to school focus. You see it on your August calendars. You're going to get the materials later to be able to promote for this, but everybody's going back to school. We did teacher focus. Now we're going to focus on moms and students for this particular week. That's going to be our main focus. And the task at hand is, before having any red appointments that are booked off of these efforts, what you want to do is have a staff meeting, maybe 30 minutes, maybe however long it takes for you to drill down and assess staff and be able to provide this training. But I'm going to have this recorded, obviously, and I'm going to post it. And I want you guys to have this for the training. You want to have a staff training on all of these processes to tie into the sales process that you've trained them on already. They need to understand that the Eileen with the walk-in and has no offer is going to be treated much differently than the one with the offer, because you have a buy it back opportunity, right? Eileen, red appointment, always with the offer. The red appointment is a buy it back opportunity, and you can do some proactive outreach for this week as well. So appoint people. That is your other task that you want to do. That's your homework. Appoint people to pull the proper reports, to be able to contact those who are not currently committed EFT Eileens, and invite them in to say, listen, we're able to give you a week of unlimited spa use. Although you only have a few sessions, this won't count against your sessions maybe. That could be the offer. You only have 10. Well, we're going to give you a week where it's not going to count against you. What does that mean? We've just extended your week. Now, what does that mean for you? You're not giving anything away. The end goal is not to give them an opportunity to use more stuff and you're losing money. No, the goal is to have them see that they could be using unlimited services and you're buying time, longer time with these people. Daily deals. You don't run Groupons and Living Socials and Amazon Locals just to drive in only membership cash, right? You do that because that is a buy it back tool that you can implement towards the get started fee. Paid in fulls or upgrading existing UV only maybe, or limited sessions people. Being proactive with reaching out to them could be a task that you do this week to offer them something to drive in either an upgrade or get them to finally make that commitment to you. Incentivize them and urge them to be able to close and say yes to that EFT membership, mainly because, and you guys know that this is a real thing, the paid in full and sessions prices always fluctuate. You never want to lose somebody, and that's what you want to tell them. We don't want to lose you. We want to see you continue to use us. Talk to them about the convenience of the EFT membership being you could still come in and pay with cash if you'd like. We just need an ACH on file to reserve this price point for you, so that way we can make sure you don't ever have to be inconvenienced by price fluctuations ever. That's a great way to be able to do that. But you can be proactive, and we highly recommend that you do that. That's actually part of an internal EFT increase training that we had not too long ago. So without further ado, you guys go ahead and have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. Make sure that you go back into your spa, motivate your staff, let that trickle down, make sure that you're doing proper leadership, have that meeting, have that training, use this specific training webinar to help them in understanding the step-by-step process, because right now, if you're having a ratio problem and you have a low closing percentage, chances are your staff needs to just understand that they need to have the skill set and being able to do these things and learning why we have a process in place the way we have it and how to implement the process that we have in place. Those are the two huge key indicators that make or break the yes or no decision from Eileen. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you guys on the Monday motivation call on Monday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be on the lookout for the Spa Performance newsletter that contains the call-in information. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend.